Welcome to the Metamorphosis Show, the live broadcast created to help you transform the way you think, eat, and move. And today we are talking about pastured eggs. Why not cage-free? Why not vegetarian-fed? Why not just a regular carton of eggs? And those are good questions, and we're going to get to them. But I know that not everyone can stay for the whole amount of time, I don't know, I think this will be like 15 minutes. If you're not, two things. Number one, eat pastured eggs because chickens aren't vegetarians, which I'll start to cover. Whether or not you are is completely up to you, but chickens definitely aren't, and their eggs don't have the same quality or quantity of nutrients that their pastured counterparts get. So that's number one. Number two, I just launched a program called Lose 10 Pounds This Month, which is perfect for you if you really overdid it at Thanksgiving and plan to do that by Christmas. If you start now, you can be 10 pounds lighter by Christmas. There's a link right underneath this post on my main page. So let's get to this stuff. First of all, this is a pastured egg from Vital Farms, and actually these are al fresco eggs, but the company is Vital Farms, and they have a network of chicken farmers and egg farmers all over the country that raise their chickens on pasture. And what that means is it's not cage-free. Cage-free just means that they have, a small space that they are able to walk out into. It means they have a yard, like a little pen where they can leave these enormous chicken factories and go out and get some space. But it's not necessarily pastured. In fact, it isn't pastured. Pastured means they have, I don't know how many chickens per acre. I think it's something like 100. Maybe it's less, maybe it's more. You could probably tell me. But the bottom line is the chickens are able to cruise around on grass and eat whatever they want. And here's the thing, here's the title coming to life. Chickens aren't vegetarians, okay? They're omnivores. So a chicken left to its own devices is eating bugs and worms and all kinds of things you can imagine a chicken would peck and scratch. They're sort of active omnivores looking for a good meal, and they don't really discriminate. So if you're eating all vegetarian fed chickens, you are getting a chicken that does not have access to its full diet. And as a result, you're getting eggs that are going to be lacking in some of these necessary things. Now, I heard the owner, this is one that, look at that. That thing is luminescent on camera. I heard the owner of Polyface Farms, I can't remember if it was in, this is the pastured on the, and there are white and brown eggs. It's not really what the shell looks like that matters. But I heard the owner of Polyface Farms talking about riboflavin as just a small number, and he was using it as a metric for how much more essential nutrients and minerals pastured birds get compared to their factory counterparts. Now, just from, we'll also talk about methionine, which is an amino acid, which the birds don't get if they're fed a completely vegetarian diet. And then they get sick. And so they have to fill those birds full of drugs in order to keep them healthy and alive and laying. So, let's look at this pastured egg again, and inside, now here's the test. Inside there should be a really orange yolk. And I'm really hoping that it's a lot more orange than this one. Generally speaking, the factory eggs, the shells are really brittle. The yolks are sort of this dull yellow. And I know that if you've traveled at all and been abroad, you'll notice that the shell is a lot harder on this. Sorry about the noise, guys, and thank you for joining me. The shells are a lot harder. The yolks are a lot brighter orange, and that's not necessarily an indication of a healthier bird, but it's something. And I gotta tell you, the more sickly yellow yolks you see, compared to their bright orange counterparts, it just seems like it's coming from a healthier place. I don't have data on the color, right? I do know that birds that are fed a vegetarian diet lack that amino acid methionine. I know that there's less riboflavin. There's less, I'm looking like I'm gonna get answers from this carton of pastured eggs, but it doesn't really have all the cheat sheet that I need. But yeah, I mean, you're really, like, first of all, and I should have prefaced everything with, if you're eating eggs instead of cheeseburgers, it's good on you. That's decent. But you also need to think about where your eggs are coming from, as opposed to just you getting the nutrients. And forgive me for sort of rambling. I have a lot of stuff that I want to cover, but it's all sort of scattered in my mind right now. What I am going to do is crack open one of these eggs. Let's get to something interesting. I'm going to crack open these eggs, and we'll see what the yolks look like, and hopefully we'll be able to see a difference. I'm going to focus the camera down on my couple of little bowls that I have here. All right, here's 2 bowls. So first, we'll start out with the pasture-raised egg. All right, this is got about 6 grams of protein, and I'm going to show you what I do with these raw eggs after. I do eat them raw. You don't have to, but I tend to. It's not because I want to be like Rocky, although who doesn't? It's really more because I want to see if eggs are any more bioavailable raw compared to cooked. So I really eat them both ways, and I don't think that anyone has data on what my body responds to. I certainly don't, so that's why I'm constantly experimenting. So here's a pastured egg. The shells are fantastically strong, and look how orange that is. I'm going to show you the camera. Put the egg right in front of the lens so you could see just how orange this thing really is. Look at that. That thing is so orange. And the shell was super thick. And now, here we have the normal mass-produced chicken egg. And this is what this will look like. God, if it's as orange as this, I might have to change this whole broadcast. These shells crack so easily. They're very, very brittle. They just don't seem as healthy to me. And there you go. The yolk is much bigger. I don't know. Can you see that? Let me just focus this down a little bit more. Compare these 2 eggs. The one on this one where my thumb is pointing, that's a pasture-raised egg. This is a factory egg, and it's yellow. It actually doesn't look as bad as I thought it would, but you can see which one is darker. So, does that necessarily mean a better egg? Honestly, I think yes. I absolutely think that. I think that this dull yellow one comes from a vegetarian-fed chicken. Oh, good. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. This thing is like, it's the deepest orange, and it's beautiful, and I'm about to consume it raw. And I would never do that with these cage-free or vegetarian eggs. And here's why. If you've seen that film Samsara, which you should see anyway, I believe it's on Netflix, you get a really good picture of what factory farming for birds is like. Thanks, Jonathan. You make me smile, son. In that film, you can see them mechanically harvest chickens, and you see kind of the conditions that they live in. And considering those conditions, you have to assume, if you're a decent person, that whatever environment your food is raised in will be carried on to the harvested product. So if you have birds that are standing around in their own feces and pecking each other to death because they don't get any methionine in their vegetarian feed, well, that's going to be transferred into the egg that you eat. And it doesn't mean it's going to be some demon spawn egg. It just means that you're not going to get the healthiest product that you could. And that's really the crux of everything that I'm trying to show people is that it's not necessarily about the most expensive product or the trendiest product, but you do want if you're going to eat animals or vegetables, you want something that's raised in an optimal environment. So, that being said, if you've ever been to, let's say, Korea, I think they probably do this in Mexico as well, but eggs aren't refrigerated. Eggs don't need to be refrigerated, okay? Especially if here's the best, if you can get these from a farmer. The farmers that I talk to have said that these are good for about a month on the counter. Can you imagine? I mean, I thought that was crazy, and then I lived in Korea for a while, and at Costco in Korea, eggs are right next to like pecans on the shelf. So if you get good pastured eggs, they don't need to be refrigerated. You're welcome to if that's the way you like them, but it's not necessary. So that's a little tidbit. So now I'm going to show you, I don't really have protein powder that often, but when I do, I almost always mix it with raw eggs. My post-workout shake for a long time before I switched to mostly non-supplement dietary, I don't even know what you would call it. I stopped taking supplements regularly, that's what you would say. For a long time it was 6 raw eggs and a handful of nuts and some fruit and oats, and now that I follow a more modified ketogenic diet, I rarely do it, but I did a bunch of work today, so I'm going to justify it that way. I burned a bunch of glycogen. So today I have in my protein shaker cup just some whey protein, okay? And I'm going to add this beautiful, oh shit, it's terrible. There it is. I'm going to add this beautiful orange egg to it, and I'm going to add 2 more. And I don't think, so I've gotten amoebic dysentery. I got amoebic dysentery in Vietnam, and I've had E. coli several times, and probably salmonella now that I think about it, but I've never ever gotten sick from eating raw eggs. So this is just how I do it. If this is just totally disgusting to you, you should watch the sardines episode. But here's the thing about raw eggs. It makes whatever protein you're mixing it with or whatever flavor super creamy. So it's actually really delicious. So I'm shake, shake, shake. There is a little shaker ball in here, but it doesn't really take much. And the goal of all this is to make it creamy and blended enough that I can't get giant chunks of egg, all right? So I'll just show you what that looks like. It really just looks like protein powder or a protein shake. It's not gonna look like raw egg or anything. There it is. And I find that it is so much more delicious this way, and I'm hopefully getting something, oh wow, really struggling with the lid here. Really getting something that is more bioavailable than it would be if I was eating it cooked. So, raw egg protein shake. This is 1 scoop of chocolate, all natural whey isolate, 3 pastured eggs from Vital Farms. So what is that? 6 grams of protein per egg. So that's 18 plus the 24 of the protein powder, and that gives me 42, correct? Not bad. So there you have it. The takeaways that you need to remember are that pastured eggs have more of the essential nutrients, minerals, amino acids, particularly the methionine, than their vegetarian-fed counterparts. And the reason why they stopped, so I got this from a Huffington Post article last year, but apparently the reason why they stopped feeding chickens blood meal and meat scraps was to get the organic certification. So they got the organic certification, by stopping that, but then they found that because these chickens weren't getting methionine, they were getting sick, and then they were dying. So then they started adding supplemental methionine, and you have birds that are raised on I'm not going to say it's a synthetic diet, because that wouldn't be true, but it isn't necessarily what birds eat, because unlike you, they don't usually get to choose to be a vegetarian. While you may do that for ethical reasons, these birds really don't get a choice in these factory farms, and if they don't get their normal diet, it makes them sick, much like we've seen happen in the beef industry with cows. So that is the short lesson on pastured eggs. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them or refer you to somebody that can. Thank you for watching the Metamorphosis Show, and until next time, you have so much power. Use it wisely.